Joining me now, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Assembled brain power matched only when Thomas Jefferson had dinner alone, or something like that. I think that's what somebody once said. I'm just paraphrasing. I wasn't quite there yet. Senator Tuberville, Howard Lutnick. I think he's going to be a bulldog for America at the Commerce Department. What you think, sir?
No doubt, Larry. I had a chance to meet with Howard a couple of weeks ago in New York, giving my input on a few of the cabinet nominees, but he's done a yeoman's job. He's worked very close with President Trump. This has got to be almost an impossible job of putting this many people together at one time, because we need to hit the ground running in the very near future. But he's not just a great business person, Larry. He's a great American. He believes in this country, and that's what we need working with President Trump, somebody that's going to believe in America first, hit the ground running, and he'll do a great job in the Commerce Department.
You know, Senator Schmitt, the point I made on tax cuts, I mean, I think tax cuts and the big reconciliation bill probably take up an awful lot of your time in the first the first coming year, 2025, of the second Trump administration. But one thing, I don't want to let this slip by. I know Senator Tuberville agrees with this, but the revenue feedback, the economic incentives of lower tax rates creates tremendous growth, which in turn throws off revenues far greater than the so-called static economic models predict. I mean, we've seen this for the longest time. I mean, when I worked for Reagan in the budget office many years ago, they wouldn't allow for the Reagan lower marginal tax rates, but revenues exploded. It was true way back in the JFK years. I wrote a book about that subject. Trump's tax cuts in 2017, if you ever look at the baseline that CBO laid out in 2017 and look at where revenues are today, it's not even close. Revenues are almost twice as high as they were estimated. So I'm glad that Howard Lutnick, and I certainly hope the next Treasury Secretary, believes in revenue feedback and dynamic scoring models. And I think, you know, you all in the Senate, you got to push this. This is going to be very important for getting those Trump tax cuts passed.
I agree, and I'm on the Joint Economic Committee, and we had a discussion today about this very thing. We've got to be able to articulate how it matters to real people, and you're right. When you had broad-based tax relief, Larry, whether it was JFK, Ronald Reagan, President Trump, you've seen revenues rise and people keep more of their, more of their own money, which is the point. And so that's what we saw in 2017 and beyond with those tax cuts. And I think, telling the American people what's on the line, all those tax cuts for middle-class families, they're going to go away unless we extend them. We ought to make them permanent, by the way. Also, the pass-through companies, all those small businesses that aren't organized as C-Corps, as corporations, the mom and pops that are LLCs or closely held businesses or S-Corps, whatever it is, they received a tax cut for the first time under that bill also. So we got to make sure we're doing right by them. And I think if we do all those things and do them early, our economy is going to soar.
You know, Senator Tuberville, I think you got to rough up the CBO and the Joint Tax Committee. Now, I'm saying that in a metaphorical sense. Of course I am. But I think somebody's got to hold them to it. Take a look at their estimates, the Joint Tax Committee and the Congressional Budget Office. Take a look at what they said would happen in 2017. And then inside the 10-year window, we're not past that, right? This is 24. We're entering fiscal 25. Take a look at the actual. The actual is vastly greater than the predicted. I don't want to spend all night on this point, but somebody's got to push that crowd around, because they're always wrong, and they might just sabotage the Trump tax cuts. They've tried before, Senator Tuberville.
Well, the truth is what we need to look at, Larry. You're exactly right. We got to keep pushing what works. People don't understand. We try to invent the wheel up here. We don't need to invent the wheel. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. And we've seen this tax reform. We need to get it done very quickly. I don't know how long it's going to take. We need to get it done very quickly. We need to get regulations out of the way. We need to get the tax reform done, and as Eric said, do it permanently. We need to help the American people put money back in their pocket. My goodness, but the truth is something that we got to stay with and understand that the facts are there.
By the way, Senator, on this point, I'm just going to put this in. It's grist. We got to move on in this segment. But, Senator Mike Crapo, who I guess is going to be chair of the Finance Committee, is a very smart man, very smart fella. And I've talked to him. Senator Schmitt, I'll throw this at you. I've talked to him. There's such a thing as a current policy baseline. I don't know if you're familiar with it. CBO uses a current services baseline, which is their long-term estimates. But you have a popular policy that's built into the budget forever and ever. A lot of people think you don't have to rescore that. You don't have to rescore that. And you know who used that principle? That well-known unsupply sider, Barack Obama, okay? You got to talk to Mike Crapo about that. I'm telling you, there's precedent. Don't need to score the corporate tax cuts anyway. Fellas.
Larry, I think that's a great point. The other thing to keep in mind here is the Democrats opened the door on this reconciliation process, and for the viewers at home, it means if you've got the House, you've got the Senate and the White House, and it's tax-related provisions that are budget-related, you only need 51 votes in the Senate. They pushed the envelope on that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have an opportunity to include regulatory reform in this tax cut bill if there's budget savings. And I personally intend to push that because I think that getting government out of the way on whether it's offshore leasing or whatever can be a boon for our economy, increase revenues, and we ought to include that in this package.
I love that. I love that. You know what? Including permitting reform could well work its way in. You're 100% right. Gentlemen, now I want to play some Trump tape. I believe it was from his victory speech, and then you'll see where I'm going. Hang on one second. Here it comes.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. I mean, the number of victories in the Senate was absolutely incredible. And you have some great senators and some great new senators. And it also looks like we'll be keeping control of the House of Representatives.
All right, promises made, promises kept, 3 House sweeps, terrific thing. Senator Tuberville, I'm worried about Matt Gaetz, and I'm worried about Pete Hegseth. And I'm worried that, I know there'll be opposition, I get that, but I'm worried particularly about Gaetz. You've got the word of a convicted felon now in his serving out an 11-year prison term right now, and his 2 prostitute lady friends, okay? They seem to be the principal attackers for Matt Gaetz. Now, I don't know everything there is to know about this. I've spent time with Molly Hemingway, who's a brilliant journalist who has written a lot about this, but I have some feelings. I don't think a lot of people in the Senate want Matt Gaetz just because he's a tough-minded conservative who's going to protect Donald Trump from any kind of nonsensical lawfare and weaponization, Russia, and all that's garbage. What do you think about that? What kind of shape is the Gaetz thing in, and what to do about it, if anything?
Well, first of all, no matter who President Trump picks, the media are going to hammer him every day. You know, we've all been around pretty long, Larry. It doesn't make any difference. If you're a Republican, you got to fight your way through all this. If you remember Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh, we're going to look at facts, not rumors. There's more rumors up there going around about Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth, and even all of them will have some kind of rumor when it comes down to it. But we've got to look at facts. But we've got to help President Trump. He's not going to pick somebody that's a criminal. He's not going to do that. He's going to vet everybody, and he's done that. I'm looking forward to working with all of them. I'm looking forward to backing all of them as long as the facts are there.
Yeah, Senator Schmitt, I mean, will Gaetz get a fair hearing? I know he's going to go office to office. You know, as you know, sir, he served on the Judiciary Committee for his many terms. I know he's a sharp-tongued conservative. I don't know. These allegations seem to crop up. It's kind of, this is what happens. It was the Justice Department, the weaponized lawfare Justice Department of Joe Biden and Merrick Garland that originally put this stuff out. And, sir, they couldn't find anything. So they dropped the charges. They left it be. Now, that tells me there's something fishy going on here. And the question is, Gaetz get a fair hearing?
I do. I think I'm more bullish on this, maybe, Larry, than some others right now, because I happen to believe that President Trump ran on the idea that he and a band of disruptors were going to come to Washington and take on permanent Washington. And the reforms that we need aren't just in legislative changes. The reforms have to come from, change agents that are leading those agencies. And so I think that President Trump has the right to pick these nominees that are going to go in and shake things up. And so, look, and no one should be surprised by that. And so whether it's Pete Hegseth or it's Matt Gaetz or whoever it is, President Trump deserves the opportunity to have a Department of Justice that goes after some of the corruption that has taken place in the last 4 years. So I look forward to that hearing. I think Matt Gaetz is going to show well in that hearing. But I think that people right now, Washington is, one big sewing circle sometimes, and people are always pearl clutching. But the truth is, these agencies, and especially the Department of Justice, need some disruptors in there to shake things up.
Yeah, and Senator Tuberville, last one to you. You know, with Pete Hegseth, the charges thrown at Hegseth were settled years ago. Nothing happened. In fact, if anything, Hegseth was attacked. But, lawyers crop up. They just happen to be Democrats. Lawyers find reasons. They find women. The Me Too movement was that nothing ever happened. Now, all of a sudden, the Washington Post is running stories gleefully about Hegseth. There's no finer person than Pete Hegseth. I know him. I've worked with him here at Fox. You know him. Decorated military man. We both went to Princeton, but I won't go there. Anyway, I'm just saying, Hegseth is as good a citizen as you're going to get.
Exactly, and our military needs an overhaul. We can't wait around, Larry. We're looking down the barrel of a gun with a world war with Russia because what President Biden has done in the last few days. We have to take control of our military and get back to the nuts and bolts of what made our country strong, and that was a strong, fearful military that people feared every day.
All right, terrific stuff. You gentlemen are actually better than Thomas Jefferson. I just say that. Senator,
Put that on my tombstone. I don't know if that's true, though.
I can attest to it, more or less. Senator Eric Schmitt, Senator Tommy Tuberville, thank you both ever so much.